Hi, I'm Abby Doyle from Bible Society, and today I'm joined by Dr. Andrew Ollerton. He's going to tell me and you all about his brand new book. So, Andrew, hi.
Hi Abby, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm excited actually. Yeah, my new book has just arrived. In fact, I've held my first copy. So
Oh,
I'm
look at
feeling excited. Yeah, I know you put sweat and toil for months into these things and then to hold it is very pleasing. So all good.
that's really nice. And it looks like the cover really goes nicely with the other ones as well, your other books that you've written. They kind of all.
Y- Yeah, that's right. They're all sort of illustrated. In this case, the illustration captures the sort of seven topics this book covers. We'll come on to that, but they're of.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I put the three next to each other when they arrived. I thought, yeah, they're nice little trilogy. I never planned it that way, but nice to see it playing out that way. Yeah.
Nice, that's really good. So this book is called God's Book, an honest look at the Bible's toughest topics. It's
Mm.
quite hard to say that actually. In which you tackle questions like, does the Bible condone warfare and slavery? Isn't the New Testament's teaching on sex outdated? And surely there's not literally a heaven and hell. They're quite
Mm.
big things to be
Yeah,
uncovering
yeah.
and delving into.
It's not a comedy,
Yeah.
although I do try and bring my own version of sort of storytelling and a little bit of humour to it because I think these topics they are weighty and they are serious, but there's also a lighter side to each of them as well. But basically, yeah, it's going through from Genesis to Revelation. It's going through what I believe are the seven toughest things you're going to find in the Bible and how to make sense of them. That's the basic idea.
Yeah. So what made you want to write it? What made you think I'm going to be the one to tackle these?
Well, I think I've, as you know, with the Bible course especially, I've been had the privilege of helping a lot of people see the big story of the Bible and get into the Bible with a new confidence for themselves, and that's my passion. I want that. But I've just noticed, and I literally, it's expressed in a material way. I get a lot of questions from people, and often those questions are from people who are now really engaged. They want to make sense of the Bible, but they're bumping into things in the Bible, things that I've bumped into. Obviously, we all do. If you just have to read the Bible, and there'll be things in it that you think, "Gosh, why is that in the Bible? Should that be in the Bible?" And we've all had that experience. I've had that experience. I still have that experience. So I just felt there was the need for a book that, if you like, in terms of its genre, is slightly more in the apologetics category, but apologetics through the story of the Bible, which is really my lane. I wanted to stay in my lane, the Bible course
Okay.
lane, really.
Nice.
Genesis to Revelation, but kind of saying if you do go through the Bible, Genesis to Revelation, what are you going to bump into? And how might it make a lot more sense to understand these topics in their context, in their storied context? So that's really what I've set about to do. In many ways, you asked why I've written it. In many ways, I sort of had two different people in mind as I wrote it. One was my younger self. Um,
Okay.
I think of myself when I went to university, especially for the first time. I really had been brought up in a Christian home. I probably had a reasonable understanding of the Bible as a story and as a book, but I'd never really grappled with these kinds of topics. And if I'm honest, I was quite thrown then when often quite skeptical professors raised these topics with me, and I was like, oh gosh, yeah, I've not thought about that, and I was a bit caught napping. So I had my younger self in mind. It's a book I wish I'd read when I was late teens, early 20s, especially. And then I also have in mind, we've been talking a lot about the quiet revival. I also have in mind a lot of people right now who are just reaching out to the Bible, hoping they might find something in there that makes sense of life, because a lot of things in our world don't make sense.
Absolutely.
And often they are starting in Genesis, aren't they? I was speaking to one young man recently, and he just literally bought a Bible on Amazon. And I said, what did you read? And he sort of looked at me like I was a bit stupid. He said, well, I just started at the beginning. Why wouldn't you start at the beginning of a book?
Yeah,
But that means people are deep into the Old Testament. And so I wanted this book to help make sense of some of those things.
that's great. So you say that you had your younger self in mind, and obviously, with the Quiet Revival, young people that are new to faith. But also at the end of every chapter, you've written a kind of summary, haven't you? Which is to your children. Did you have them in mind as well while you were writing it?
Well, I mean, I know I hope I don't look old enough, but my children and they're teenagers, which frightens me every time I think about it. But I love it. I love the questions they ask about the Bible. That they often come sideways, things I've never thought about. You can read all the academic books in the world and then be floored by a question from a young person because they just think about things
Absolutely.
in such a concrete, simple way. My son, this is going back a few months, but I remember him saying to me, what would have happened if Adam had, if Eve had eaten the forbidden fruit, but Adam decided not to. I was like, I have never thought about that, and I don't know
No.
the
Oh
answer.
God.
Playing out scenarios I've never thought about. So
Yeah.
anyway, you're right. What I decided to do, with just young adults in mind generally, was to
Mm.
finish each of the 7 parts with a letter to one of my children. And I basically chose whichever of our kids I'd had a good conversation with about related themes related
Yeah.
to that topic. And
Okay.
it was kind of an honest moment for me. It was like, once you start writing that kind of letter, there's nowhere to hide. You can't hide behind clever academic sounding things. You've got to think, what difference does this actually make? Why is this
Yeah.
important? And how will it affect the way we inhabit the real world, the world of today? So it was a way of not hiding and making sure this book had a personal touch and a practical touch. And I think that's worked, but the reader will be the judge.
Yeah, the reader will. But also your kids. Have your kids read the book, Andrew?
I don't know. They've not read the whole book. I'll be honest. I
Okay.
don't think they have. They've definitely read the letters that I've written to them. Each of them, I've written, a couple of letters to each, and I did ask them to sort of read through, and they gave some fairly brutal feedback. But, one of my sons he's always saying that's too enthusiastic. Don't say it. It's too enthusiastic. Just be cool. So
Yeah,
so I definitely tweaked and revised a few bits in the light of their feedback. So I'm glad they got to it before everyone else will.
that's great. So we'll see a much cooler Andrew in this book than on the life of
Chill.
your son.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Can't wait. So you've explained that obviously there's a summary bit which are kind of letters to your kids and some of the questions that you've tackled. But can you give us a bit more of an idea of what we can expect from the book? So how is it laid out? What kind of language can we
Mm.
expect? Is it something we can maybe do with groups of people, or should it be read alone? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in terms of what you can expect to go through, as I said, Genesis to Revelation. So part of what it's doing is reinforcing that big story of the Bible, how the whole Bible makes sense as a big story, the Bible calls peace. And you'll see the visual there on the front cover. It's kind of like the sort of laboratory laboratory glass with the world in it, asking the question, how does the creation stories in Genesis relate to modern science? And then the laws about slavery and generally the laws of Moses. I think for many of us, we bump into, if you've ever tried reading the Bible from the beginning, you get
Yeah.
about as far as and then you think, why am I reading
Yeah.
about what to do with a bull's liver? How does this relate? So I tackle those laws, and especially the more disturbing laws about holding slaves.
Mm.
And then the next topic is, and it's all, you can hear it's all in the chronological order of the Bible story. The next topic is Israel conquering Canaan, and the stories in Joshua that have been accused of being genocidal and wiping out the Canaanites. How do we understand warfare in the Bible, especially that God seems to authorize? And then the next major thing that happens to Israel is, having entered the Promised Land, they get thrown out of it, a period of tremendous suffering known as the exile. And I asked the question, why does God let us suffer? Why is the age-old perplexing question of the problem of evil? And then into the New Testament, I talk about the miracles of Jesus. Can we really believe these extraordinary things happened? But I don't know what you make of this, Abby, but I also talk about exorcisms as well, because I feel like,
That's a big one.
yeah, and I just feel like the culture we're in today is more open spiritually to all sorts of things, and sometimes people don't realize what they're dabbling with. So I wanted to not only highlight the miracles of Jesus, but what's often neglected, which is he set people free from darker forces as well. So that's part 5, and then part 6 is Paul's letters and the issue of sexuality.
Okay.
If I'm very honest, I thought about trying to avoid that because it's such a
Yeah.
contentious issue. And then I just thought, how can I, if I'm saying I'm writing a book about the toughest topics in the Bible, how could I not address the elephant in the room? So I bring particularly a historical perspective there on how early Christian teaching actually challenged a very dominant male culture in Rome and brought a sexual revolution of a different kind, one that we still benefit from today. And then the final part is in Revelation, the visions of judgment and hell, and how do we make sense of those in the light of God being a loving a loving God. So, that's what you can expect, is to really go through the Bible in terms of but I know those issues are really knotty and challenging, so I broke it into short chapters with little
Okay.
interludes as well, and at the end of each chapter there's a little sort of Bible reading and a devotional reflective question, just to help people kind of feel, actually, this isn't academic, this isn't for just clever people or people who already know the Bible really well. This is a beginner's guide, and it applies to our lives.
That's great. So actually, it would work really nicely kind of after you've done the Bible course. Once you've kind of worked out a bit how the Bible works, then going through it and really delving into those knottier things might work nicely.
Exactly. I really thought of it that way. It's almost like I'm looping back through the same narrative arc that the
Yeah.
Bible course goes through. The Bible course does the navigation piece, and I think that's where most people need to start. Just, how do I find my way around the Bible as a
Mm,
story in a library? There you go. Our new version of the Bible, new edition of the Bible course, really does the navigation piece brilliantly. And it's
yeah.
almost like in this book, I'm then saying, let's go back through that same narrative arc, Genesis to Revelation, but now think not so much about navigation, but interpretation. How do we
Yeah.
interpret those really difficult passages? And so I've also developed a discussion guide, and some just really simple introductory videos, so that people who are in small groups as a follow-on to the Bible course can just sort of feel like, yeah, we can do this together. It's
Okay.
another way of reinforcing the big story.
Okay. So it's great. So you can use it. You can just read it for yourself, or you can actually do it with your small group as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
nice. Okay. Oh, it's a flexible book.
It's a flexible book, and I think that we are so it's so important right now that the church is growing in confidence in the Bible, and there's many different aspects to that confidence. As I said, the navigation one, just how do I find my way around? That's a big part of it. Do the Bible course, but there is also this confidence thing around, how do I understand difficult parts of the Bible, and how could I actually be equipped to respond when questions come up in the big wide world
Mm,
about those things? And so, actually encouraging churches, whole churches, do the Bible course as a church, go through this God's Book series as a church. It's ways of just saying, keep helping people not feel like they're almost, I don't know, I think a lot of people almost feel like maybe there's some things in the Bible that I don't even want to go there because I might find things that undermine my faith,
yeah.
and almost like hide, particularly from the Old Testament, as if I actually went to those deep, dark places in the Bible, I might find things I don't want to see. Actually, and the Quiet Revival research shows this. One of the statistics, and I didn't know this when I started writing this book, obviously, but one of the statistics said that 35% of young people in the church say that when they read certain parts of the Bible, it undermines their faith.
Yeah.
And I just thought, gosh, we've got to help young people, and actually, it's not just young people, all of us, feel
Yeah.
like I can go to any part of the Bible and I can make sense of it in its context, and it doesn't need to undermine my confidence in the Bible. So that's the why, that's the passion behind it.
Yeah, brilliant. That's amazing. My next question was going to be, what are your hopes for the readers in
Mm.
terms of their connection with this? But and that's basically it, isn't it? That they become more confident in their understanding of the Bible.
I think so. I think it's that people feel like there's nothing in the Bible I need to hide from. That's at a
Mm,
personal level.
yeah.
Not running scared. That's the first thing. And then I think also there's nothing that I need to sort of fear is going to come up in conversation where I also need to hide because I don't want to represent the Bible in case I say something wrong.
Mm,
This book is not going to mean you have all the answers, because I don't. But it is going to mean that you don't feel quite as flawed by those difficult things. So it's kind of being equipped for our own confidence. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's not just kind of meeting people out there far away. It's close to home, actually.
yeah,
Sometimes, as I
absolutely.
said earlier, sometimes it's things your kids ask you. You want to be
Mm,
able to read the Bible with your kids and not feel like you're not able to help them, or grandkids, or whoever it may be. So, in terms of what I hope it will do, yeah, build our own confidence. There's nothing I need to hide from, and build our confidence for mission. I can
yeah,
talk about the Bible in the big wide world and not feel that I'm ill prepared. And the only other thing I'd say is these topics are challenging. This
yeah.
is only an introduction. In fact, I really think this is kind of 7 books in one. what
Okay.
what I
Wow.
mean is, any specialist scholar would write a whole book on just one of these 7 topics, and
Mm,
I've written one book with 7 of those in it. And I therefore felt like this is really saying this is just the place to start. I signpost very clearly to more specialist books on each of the topics. So if one of these topics really is the thing that you wrestle with and struggle with, you've got a pathway forwards. You've got other places you can go. So it's an introduction. And also, I'm really pleased this time it's not just for people who read books. It's available in print, which is great. But it's also available on Kindle. And last week, oh, there we go. Yeah, you can see the different editions. Kindle, so you can read it electronically. But last week I finished the Audible recording of it. I actually read through the whole thing in a studio,
Wow.
very professionally done. That was good for me, actually, because it's funny how when you write a book, you finish your work on it, and then it goes quiet for months because other people are doing all the typesetting, and the book's
Yeah.
full of brilliant visuals and maps and diagrams because I'm quite a visual learner. I say brilliant because other people have done the work on that. So I kind of finished writing this thing quite a long time ago. And then when I read through it just over the last couple of weeks, it actually was really good for me. I just thought, gosh, no, I'm really pleased with this. And
Yeah.
it's coming across well. So the Audible version will be out alongside the Kindle and print.
That's brilliant. And so, just before we go to where we can buy these books from, I have one final question. When you were writing it, did your kind of research and your thinking around these topics change your personal
Mm.
connection with the Bible? Did you kind of grow through that, or have to rethink stuff that you thought before? How did that affect you?
Mhm. It really did actually in ways that I didn't always anticipate. So I think one issue is that you face as an author with these kinds of topics is you can almost be a little bit ambivalent and a little bit hesitant to be clear about what you believe. But when you write a book, you have to sort of think it through to a place of clarity. So, for example, on the issue of how creation stories in Genesis are reconciled with the science question, that was really good for me to have to think, what do I actually believe? I did a geography degree. It was my first degree, and I've just not that I've been without any thought about these things, but definitely that section really pushed me. And then the other one that really I think affected me in a way that I didn't expect was this chapter or this section on miracles and exorcisms. I think I've been in the academic world for so long that you're almost trained to be this kind of rational machine that doesn't entertain anything that you can't rationally make sense of. And so all the sort of stories of miracles and exorcisms. It was interesting when I was researching. I mentioned this in the book. When I was researching that part, I searched, I think, on Amazon, the miracles of Jesus for books. Who else has written on this? Because I had some, and I thought there must be others out there. It was interesting how the vast majority of the search findings were just kids' books, almost as
Really?
if, yeah, almost as if the only way we treat the miracles of Jesus is as children's stories. We don't take them seriously as adults. And that really pushed me. And I'm very grateful to reread actually some work by a brilliant scholar called Craig Keener. So my book is standing on the shoulders of giants really, because there's so many brilliant scholars that I've drawn from. And Craig Keener was particularly helpful because his book, which I drew on in my chapter, really was almost like a detox from this kind of hyper rationalist anti-supernatural worldview that I think I've just been more, like a fish in water. You don't realize what water is because you're just swimming
Yeah.
in it. You don't even realize how much you've been trained to just almost subtly dismiss stories of supernatural things as if that's not proper theology or that's not serious stuff. And particularly when it comes to talk about evil spirits or
Yeah.
exorcisms, again, you just sort of think, oh, that's mumbo jumbo stuff, not things we can take seriously. And I felt really convicted by that. How dare I? How smug? How elitist for us to
Yeah.
sit in judgment of the vast majority of the world who actually see and experience these things and believe in them. How dare we say, oh no, we think it's all nonsense? No, not at all. And actually, I felt like I've been different in my perspective on the miraculous since writing that section.
That's amazing. So we can all hope to feel the same once we've read
Hmm.
this book, hopefully. That's brilliant.
I
Thank
hope
you
so.
so much. Thank you so much for sharing all about this book. I'm very excited to read it. And I'm very excited that you can do this book as a brilliant kind of follow on from the Bible course. Those are two excellent resources. So if you want to get those resources and Andrew's book, there's a link in the description below where you can get the Bible course and also Andrew's book, and they're both available on the Bible Society website. So head there.
Mm.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. It's been brilliant to chat with you today.
Oh, thanks, Abby, and thank you for asking such good questions. I just really hope this book helps a lot of people grow in confidence in the Bible and share it. And right now, we need that as a church, don't we? I think we need to be. We're at risk of being caught napping by a world that's digging into the Bible in a new way. So we need to step up, and I hope this book helps everyone do that.
Brilliant. Thank you.